There's an industry, especially online, of misogyny and the misogynoir. And I want to be clear, misogyny is the hatred of women. Misogynoir is the hatred of Black women. And people do things to draw negative attention to the things that women do. And we eat this shit up. Oh, Darius Williams getting me started. So I'm actually about to do is Tory Lanez a result of the patriarchy? So the obvious answer is yes. But it's not just Tory Lanez, right? So let me backtrack for anybody in the audience that doesn't know. Tory Lanez is a C-tier rapper. Like, is that shade to say he was a C-tier rapper musician? It's like if A tier is like the top tiers, your Kendrick Lamar, Jay-Z, J. Cole, Drake, whatever, right? If that's A tier, then to me, B tier is like Denzel Curry, Joey Badass, Billy Woods, JPEG Mafia, right? And then C tier has to be J. Cole. And C tier might be a little, not J. Cole, I'm sorry. C tier has to be Tory Lanez. And C tier might be generous. It might be D tier. Because C tier might be like Boney James, Billy Woods. A lot of the trap rappers are C tier. So Tory Lanez is probably D tier. He is most known today for being the man that shot Meg Thee Stallion in the foot. And I'm not gonna undermine abuse, but I don't wanna hyper focus on the specific harm that he did to Meg, because the question was he a result of patriarchy? So the answer is yes. But what I think is more significant to talk about, at least what I would want to add to the conversation, is the way that his assault of Meg Thee Stallion has propelled him to levels of relevance that he's never seen, has become a constant trigger point for red pill type dudes and red pill adjacent type dudes. The economic engine of being violent toward Black women. To me, that's a bigger conversation. The thing we tend to do as we sit in day 4 or 5 of Diddy's trial, right, is we tend to hyper focus on bad man did X or bad man didn't do X, and talk about it in non-systemic, non-grand scheme frameworks where we're having a discussion as to whether or not Tory Lanez is innocent. He literally is not. That's the first thing, right? Regardless of how you feel about the prison industrial complex, and I have feelings about the prison industrial complex, according to the laws of the country we live in, he is guilty of shooting Meg Thee Stallion in the foot. He is in jail for that crime. Ever since then, there have been constant misinformation campaigns, constant back and forths online. I just came back from the gym. Like, I'm literally still sweating. Yes, I'm eating peanuts. We got Diddy on trial. We got Tory Lanez. Oh, and he was recently stabbed. They tried to kill this nigga in jail, which is why I'm against prisons. They tried to kill this nigga in jail. He was stabbed, 17 times? Something like that. It couldn't have happened to a better person, but it's still not okay. That's a subject that we could talk about. I've made videos about it, but I kind of want to get into it here because I want to stay on the topic at hand. So Tory Lanez almost get killed in prison. P. Diddy's on trial. I guess I'm seeing in the chat, Chris Brown just got arrested. There's reports, I don't know the details, but DDG, I think is his name. The one that had a baby with Haley. He was having baby mama issues with Haley. I don't know if he was charged, but she has filed a restraining order after a physical altercation she had with him. But it's a rough week for certain type of niggas in the spotlight. I wanted to be empathetic to DDG. And, I don't know a lot of details about that story. I tend to be empathetic toward men dealing with custody issues because that's kind of like an unspoken, really unfair system. A system that, I want to be clear, is bad because of patriarchy as well. I did a whole video about that. But if he's out here physically assaulting the mother, like that's rap. You lose. That's it. That's it. And if that's true, it calls everything into question that he's been saying about the problems between him and his baby mother. And Terry Wacky, I want to be clear. Terry Wacky says, Torey Wacky, I'm sorry if I'm fucking that up, says so many baby daddies say that, and that is true. And this is kind of where I occupy a difficult space sometimes, because so many baby daddies do say, my bad, Terry Wacky. Oh, teriyaki. Right, my bad. My bad. I end up in an awkward space because patriarchy is a very well-oiled, complex machine. And what patriarchy does is it creates spaces for different takes to exist within this ecosystem. The industry of misogyny and misogynoir content, That is why most people know who Tory Lanez is. I don't care how good you think his fourth mixtape is. Nobody here knows who this nigga is. This nigga doesn't really have hits like that. He's only big in certain pockets in Toronto. I didn't even know he was from Toronto. I didn't know that nigga was short. I still don't know how this nigga was ever relevant enough to be hanging with Meg Thee Stallion, but that's a whole nother conversation. I don't know how many mixtape he has, Nandre. I'm just saying, if I release this as a video on the streaming channel on YouTube, I'm gonna put him on a thumbnail because he's gonna draw attention. There's an industry, especially online, of misogyny and misogynoir. And I want to be clear, misogyny is the hatred of women. Misogynoir is the hatred of black women. And people do things to draw attention to, negative attention to the things that women do. And we eat this shit up. And it's not just red pill dudes, although they are the core audience for this, but understand red pill ideology is not radical. Red pill ideology is just one notch away from regular attitudes towards women. I want y'all to get that. Like, we look at the red pill a lot of times as if they're extremes, and they are, but their extreme is only a few spots away from where people normally exist when it comes to attitude towards women. That's why it's so easy for people to fall into red pill ideology, because it goes from, it's only a few steps from, women should respect themselves, and, a real woman should do this, that, and the third, and there's too much degeneracy online. It's only a few steps from takes like that, which people can say in public and get away with, to women shouldn't be able to vote. Like, it's not that big a gap. For 100 years in this country, women weren't allowed to vote. I'm pretty confident that this country has existed longer with women not having the right to vote than having the right to vote. So, like, it's important to understand that the red pill and red pill ideology is not some huge leap for most people, including women. There's also just plenty of women that are willing to play into that world. That's why Fresh and Fit and the Whatever podcast get tons of girls to appear on their channels, on their content. So, and I'm not saying this on some but the women shit. I'm just pointing out that red pill ideology and misogyny and misogynoir are normal in our society. So, like, when we get to the Tory Lanez, I don't know why he was stabbed, right? And I don't think him being stabbed is an act of feminist justice. Like, I don't want people to think that. But first off, you in jail, there's a whole lot of reasons you get stabbed. But there's always been, ironically or paradoxically, a patriarchal drive to protect women because they can't protect themselves. That's two different things. There's protect women from a feminist standpoint, and then there's protect women from a patriarchal standpoint. And there's plenty of women that don't quite know the difference. They're happy either way. Either one of them's fine with them. People accuse me of being red pill. Do you know how much more money I could make if I was actually red pill? Y'all know I just hit 1 million last month. I just hit 1 million subscribers. Y'all know Kevin Samuels was at 1.5 million within a year. He was mocking an inmate's significant other. Is that what happened? All this shit, the hatred of Doechii is another one. All this shit is an industry of the way it's easy to monopolize on the intrinsic negative attitudes that people have towards women.